Hi, hello. So if you're here, you probably already know the phrase gender envy and or have used it before. It basically means that they are envious how someone or something expresses their gender. So it isn't really gender envy, it's more like gender expression or gender presentation envy, I guess. It can be a nice way to figure out how you want to present, but there's some iffy things to it that I wanted to talk about. So I myself have experienced gender envy. I feel like practically every trans person has. Seeing people look the way that I want to look helped me realize what I want it to look like. You can really start your whole journey into figuring out that you can have other expressions of gender or just aren't the gender that you were assigned at birth. So gender envy isn't really a bad thing. The problem arises when you are looking at a real person and make an assumption based off of what you see and how you perceive their identity. So there's this video that I saw where someone commented saying that they have gender envy for that person. And I can't find it because it was on TikTok, and if you're not following the person and you refresh your feed even by accident, that video is gone forever, so I don't have the video. But the situation was that the video creator was a woman, cisgender I think, and she presented in a way that most people would see as masculine, like short hair, wearing pants, etc. And the comment said, "Let me steal your gender," which, it's a cute little comment, and it was meant to be a compliment. And her response to it was, "It's girl, my gender is girl, so I guess you can have it." And what I took from that was that the commenter felt some gender envy from the presentation and assumed she was trans. That wasn't the situation. The reason why it wasn't seen as a compliment was because it was invalidating. She's a girl, and yet someone saw her as something else. Even though they liked how she presented, it was implying that her presentation was her gender. Now, I could be reading this wrong, and the commenter was just saying that it was cool that she was a masculine girl, but it didn't really seem like that was the case. So if you personally want to be someone who physically has more feminine attributes and presents in a masculine way, that is how you view your gender in combination with expression. If you see someone who has those traits, that doesn't mean that they are the gender that you view that as. It's like a projection of your ideals of yourself onto someone else. Focusing on the idea of gender expression, why do we still associate expression to be equal to gender? Like, in this situation, the commenter wouldn't even feel necessarily gender envy if they didn't assume that this person's gender was masculine because of how they were looking. Presenting opposite of how you would be expected to because of your gender doesn't mean that you're trans. Like, this was just a masculine woman, right? So, as a trans person, it's easier to expand the idea of gender and presentation, and somehow it still comes back to these binaries. The very binaries that we fought against just to exist. What someone could consider gender envy might not even be gender envy, to be honest. You could just think that somebody looks cool, or it could be attraction instead. Gender envy is pretty much making gender, or technically gender expression, into an aesthetic. It adds onto the already unreachable standards that are available to us, the standards of being a man or a woman or even a non-binary person. Because a lot of the time it isn't about how you can be the most you in your gender or expression, it's about other people, other things. It's usually based off of attractiveness. It can mean that the person is dysphoric because they don't look like you, which would make me sad if somebody said that to me. There's already so many problems with self-esteem in the trans community. This can be fun in games and can be a means of exploration, but it can also make things harder. And I'm not trying to condemn people or shame people from using the term gender envy. I like it, it's funny, and I experience it. Hi, it's me from the future. I went on a complete tangent, so I'm just gonna drop this in. So basically, what I was just trying to say is that you should, instead of having gender envy towards somebody else and assuming their gender in the process, possibly being rude about it without even meaning to, it's better to just look at ways that you can express yourself in your own body, and instead of trying to reach these unattainable standards that are usually attached to beauty, especially in the societal sense of what's beautiful, that tends to override in what's expected to be the highlight of your transition. What the end goal is to be basically unattainable. It's better to just reach into what you personally would want to look like. And yes, it's good to grab inspiration from other places in order to figure out what that exactly is, but don't make that the main thing that you're grabbing from. Like, you need to basically just look inside yourself, look and notice what your restrictions are, and just how you would be able to attain that with what you got. Like, gender envy isn't really, it's like a beginning towards moving in a more comfortable expression of your gender, is what I was basically trying to get at. Okay, yeah, that should be it. So, I don't blame you for subconsciously assuming somebody's gender. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's done that. We grew up thinking restrictively about what each gender is and how it looks, and even how being trans looks, so it takes time to unlearn that. Like, feeling gender envy for somebody isn't a bad thing, and if you know somebody's gender and appreciate the way that they present, then I don't think it's a problem to really express that, as long as the other person's comfortable with that. But overall, I think that it just, like, compresses people down to the way that they look, their aesthetics and fashion sense, and the way their body looks, and I don't think that it's necessary, because it pretty much just confines us back into these standards and ideas that we were trying to get away from in the first place, going back to that other point. And if you think this isn't a big deal, sure. I mean, probably not. But I'm just thinking about how it can impact other people and how all of this influences just how we see gender as a whole. That's why it makes sense. It makes more sense, to me at least, to be more specific about your compliments or just, like, observations that you have for other people. Like, if you like how someone looks or expresses themselves, rather than saying that you like their gender, you could say, I like your clothes, I like your makeup, your facial structure is cool. Like, even though that's kind of weird, you get where I'm going, right? Like, if you don't necessarily mean that you like someone's gender, then you can just say what you actually like about them. Okay, I wasn't able to record an outro, so thank you for watching. Be nice to people.